you. So I will call the Infrastructure, Transportation, and Safety Subcommittee to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? And if so, the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3, which is delegations. We have none scheduled. Item number 4 is next then, which is report of the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services. And item 4.1 is continued promotion of active transportation through Lakeside Drive lane closures. Mr. Crinklaw, did you want to walk through the report?
Sure, absolutely. To the chair. So over the past 2 years, council has directed staff to implement road closures to promote physical distancing and active transportation along Lakeside Drive. The 2020 full road closures resulted in a significant increase in cycling traffic. No data was collected for the 2021 closures. It was a bit limited in scope. However, we did still receive some positive feedback from the public. Looking towards 2022 and to generate some ideas on how to accommodate the festival theater and the full season that's going on this year, we solicited feedback from Active Transportation Advisory Committee, the Board of Park Management, as well as festival theater staff. The two main considerations when looking at active transportation in the park system is looking at the idea of an immediate service, something that can be implemented sooner rather than later, and then as well as a more of a long-term strategy or plan that can be developed over the next few years. Part of the direction from council in 2020 was they're looking to have a more permanent installation in the park system in and around the river. We are working towards that. The traffic master plan has language that will be developed later on that will help guide us in developing an RFP that will specifically address what is being looked forward in that resolution from council. For this year, looking at potential for providing some immediate services, we looked at 3 main options. The first option was to do a 1-month lane closure of Lakeside Drive for westbound traffic. I'll just note at this point, it's not included in the report, but the ATAC committee did have their own recommendation of increasing that to the months of July and August, as well as to conduct some data collection. The second option was to do a full road closure for 1 weekend. It's a bit more of a disturbance for the festival theater, but if it's a short duration, it's something that they're willing to make work. And the third option is a full road closure similar to last year on weekends. There was positive feedback, but no data was collected last year on the success of that option. Option 1, that of closing westbound traffic, westbound vehicle traffic, we received the most positive feedback for. It allows eastbound traffic flow to be maintained. This ensures that all connecting streets, roadside parking, parking lots, and amenities, including the theaters, are still easily accessible without interfering with the cycling traffic itself. The only thing with this option, for option 1, is we don't have the material to implement it at this point, and so additional purchases would need to be made by the Public Works Department. We're estimating in the range of about $10,000 to $12,000 for that material. Regardless, and the last point I'll make is, regardless of what option council decides to proceed with, we will collect some data in that area to help support future decision making and study analysis and that kind of thing. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Councillor Ingram, go ahead.
Thank you. So the additional materials that you're considering purchasing, does that include like knockdown bollards along the entire west part of the lane so that we can very succinctly separate the open traffic from the travel traffic, the vehicular traffic, or how are we going to separate those?
Yeah, through the chair. The initial material that we looked at was the what I call portable knockdown bollards. So they have a heavier base that have some flexibility to it, and they'd be spaced every 6 meters or so. That's the option we did look at this point. Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you.
So if I may, as a follow-up to that, I know that we've had some closures for the hockey games and for additional parking. We've had instances where could this equipment be used for other times where we do road closures, or we need to sort of separate, let's say, parking from drive lanes and things like that?
Yeah, through the chair, these type of barricades are vary a bit from what Public Works normally uses to separate construction type traffic, but definitely something that can be utilized for special events or any other activities that the city puts on and requires traffic barriers.
I was thinking because I was just sort of me thinking out loud as I think of it now is we have the events, the application for events, and sometimes you can ask for different equipment that you can use for your event. And I'm just wondering if we're going to the trouble of paying for this equipment, whether we could offer it as something that could be included in an event application similar to the bike parking or, all of the other equipment that's available to the public.
Through the chair, that is something that the manager of Public Works and I are considering. Fees that may be incorporated into events to cover some of our costs. Something we are looking into.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Gagne?
When you say in the report that you've gotten in the past positive feedback on when we ran this program in 2000, 2001, is that information anecdotal? I'm pronouncing that wrong. Or is it we've taken a survey and we've asked a wide array of communities how they feel about closing down River Drive for these temporary endeavors, or that's, I just think we're not getting a full picture of how people feel about closing down River Drive. If somebody stops a counselor on the street and says it's a great idea to close River Drive, I've never been on it walking or biking, but it's a great idea. So I and people talk about getting back to normal. This isn't normal. This is a change. So I just don't, I don't think we are getting adequate information on how people really feel about closing River Drive now. And we see the response to closing down Heron Street for Christmas parades. So
I guess my comment would be that anecdotally, as a counselor, when people are unhappy with something, you very quickly hear about it. And you don't hear about it as often when they're happy with it. And I would say in my experience, I've had only positive feedback, and I'm sure that staff would have heard about it we hear about it when people are unhappy with something. So, and, just personally on the flip side of that is if we could take something good out of COVID, a change that isn't back to the old normal, maybe it could be having a river system where families can feel really safe taking their children for a bike ride along the river. That would be a really positive thing in my mind that we could take. Anyways, that's just the chair's addition to that. Any other comments or questions for staff? If not, there is a staff recommendation also open for your modification as you please. And there is a request from ATAC, as the director said, for extending it if possible. Yeah, yes, Councillor Ingram?
Sorry, another question. Was there any thought behind the dates that were given, July 29th to September 6th? Was there any thought behind that, or was that just when we would be able to get the materials and then be able to set them up? Or
Yeah, through the chair, that aligns with we don't pay overtime for Fridays and Mondays, so our typical process is to drop the material off on a certain date, and that way we're not paying additional costs. It's outside the budget scope. So that's the specific dates, and then just the idea was the month of August. So the duration. So it's the weekend before the month of August and the weekend after it ends the month of August.
And if we were to extend that for the month of July as well, so that the materials would get dropped off and kind of set up on maybe the 30th or July 4th, how does that impact the $10,000 to $12,000, or does it at all impact it? Because that was just the materials cost. I'm not sure.
If the date aligns with a work day, then it's absorbed into the public works budget.
Okay, so there's no additional cost for extending the time period.
If it's set up, there would be a small additional cost to pick up cones that get misplaced or that kind of thing. So there will likely be a small cost to clean up the work from time to time.
Councillor Gaffney, go ahead.
Madam Chair, so are we talking about, as posed in our recommendation, whether we expand it or not? On September 6th, or I'm sorry, July 29th, we would shut down one lane on River Drive and it would stay closed until September 6th, not just on weekends.
Yeah, and that was what we had last year. Is that not, Mr. Prinkwall? Go ahead.
Last year was just for the weekends only. So we had set up and break down. This is a much larger setup and breakdown. So, I mean, we could look into it, but it'd be an onerous task for each weekend.
Councillor Ingram, go ahead.
Okay, so I am going to move the staff recommendation, but I'm going to add that this be approved and set up on Monday, July 4th through to Tuesday, September 6th. And I'd also like to see it as a pilot project for the year of 2022, only because we have previously just done weekends. And I want to see how it works for a 2-month period. And the director did mention that we would be evaluating the project as it moves forward. So I'd like to see it as a pilot project just for the summer of 2022.
So that's moved. Councillor Gaffney, go ahead.
And might I suggest that we make it July 5th because it's a holiday? And the evidence we gather, can we make an empirical analysis of it? Like some real hard written down so we can understand what we're basing our decision on. Thanks.
So it needs to be a work day. So I guess the idea is that you want to make it the Tuesday. So that makes it. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, not people getting paid 2.5 times their regular rate to come out on a holiday Monday to do this work.
I think the holiday is actually Friday, July 1st. July 4th would be the American holiday.
That's a good point. I don't know why I thought it was the Monday. My apologies, Councillor.
That's right. Canada Day is always the holiday on the day of, and it's not a long weekend. That's right. So we'll go back to the original. So we do have a motion there to make it a pilot and to collect some data that would help guide future decisions. Perfect. If there isn't anything else, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. So now we can move on to item number 5, is the report of the fire chief and new Ontario firefighter certification. So Chief, did you want to go through the reports and tell us a little bit about what we're approving here?
Yes, through the chair. Let me know if my volume's not working. I've been having some problems with it lately. So in February, the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office put out that they will be establishing a new minimum standard for firefighters within the province to begin on July 1st of this year. This new minimum standard really is a benefit for the volunteer fire services. It doesn't affect the full-time fire services so much because we hire new hires at those higher standards of NFPA, Pro Board, FSAC to begin with. But volunteer fire services, they were struggling somewhat to achieve these higher standards at these higher costs to train an average citizen to become a firefighter to help out the community, which could take years to do and quite expensive. So the fire marshal's office, in their wisdom, did quite a bit of work over the last few years to establish these minimum safety standards for the average citizen, not to take 2 or 3 years to be trained in a volunteer environment in order to go inside and fight a fire or any other type of emergency. So these standards, they're going to allow grandfathering. We went through a round of grandfathering back in 2018, and all of our staff, which of course trained at the higher standard, we were grandfathered through this process. They're going to offer a second round starting January 1st of 2023 till September of 2023. We're still going to go through that round of grandfathering. Sometimes after election years, after an election process, some of these things can change. So we're still going to go through that grandfathering process in case there are any changes to make sure we're still okay. On a different note, other than we hire at the highest standard in Canada and North America already, and that's what the Fire Institute's trained to at this moment, any other requirements to move up in rank or promotion and safety requirements, we train those in-house, the majority of them. We have theory, practical, we have them proctored by a third party, and we have in-house proctors approved by the Fire Marshal's office. So we do not anticipate any current or future operational budget impacts from these new certifications. But as I said, we'll still go through the process to make sure that nothing changes. But I do see this is a good move by the province to establish a standard. There always should be, and this is definitely going to help out rural and smaller communities with their volunteer fire services. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for the chief? Seeing none, there is a staff recommendation that we'll receive as a report for information moved by Councillor Gaffney. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you very much. And then next is item number 6, which is the departmental update. It was circulated and it was a very long report, but maybe we can get the director to give us maybe hit some of the highlights that people might be interested in.
Yeah, through the chair, lots going on. Keep it to 3 or 4 main points here. So asphalt resurfacing, we were successful in the connecting link funding. So we're starting the design for Ontario Street resurfacing. This is from city limits to Gordon Street. The tender closes for June 8th, so that would likely put that work probably mid to late July before that might start. The Huron Street Reconstruction project. I know it's construction's underway, as many have probably realized. At this point, there is a signalized light guiding traffic, so it's a bit slow in the area. Just to advise council here that we are aiming to have both lanes of traffic open for weekend traffic anyway. So that's the goal for that setup. And really, water main flushing is ongoing. Only the downtown core remains, and this flushing will occur at night. And street sweeping, we've done almost a complete first round of the entire city, and once that's done, we'll start doing it all over again. So, and in terms of the climate change internal working group, a draft job description has been finalized. We'll be bringing a report to council with some recommendations and some guidance for that position. So that's my update. If there's any questions.
Councillor Ingram, go ahead, and then Councillor Gaffney.
I have been receiving a lot of complaints about the state of John Street between Huron and is it McLaughlin? It's really quite poor, and I'm wondering if you could comment on whether or not there's anything in the works, whether for it's being resurfaced or if it's in the capital update, if there's any comment you can make.
Not anticipated this year, though our maintenance crews has advised us of the condition of that section of road. We are doing an update to our citywide asphalt condition assessment sometime this summer, and that helps guide us for resurfacing projects for 2023 and beyond. So that's definitely in the higher on the list, but not sure exactly where that stands. So
Thank you. I anticipate that as the Huron Street construction goes on, we're probably going to hear more about that section of the road because people are using that as an alternate route.
good point, thank you.
And not only hearing about it, I imagine if there's a lot of additional traffic, it'll just make it worse as well. So, because I was on it today and yeah, it's noticeable bad. Councilor Gaffney, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I've been asked, it's been asked to me a few times lately, when is Queen and Brunswick going to be back open and substantial completion, I guess you can say.
Pretty close to there, where that is the last section being addressed. I will need to follow up with staff, to be honest, to figure out when that section of the roads will be opened up.
It's going to be sooner than later.
I would anticipate so. We are getting close to wrapping up that project, but in terms of exact dates, I don't know at this point.
And as a follow-up on the other end of that project, in driving by the festival parking lot, they seem to have done about 4/5 of the parking lot and left a couple strips right up against on the riverside side of the parking lot, still exposed gravel. So they've obviously done some paving there and taken all the equipment, gone away, and maybe they'll fix it when they come back to fix up Brunswick and Queen Street. And the new sidewalk that's been installed coming off of Queen Street towards the parking lot, it sort of ends 3 or 4 feet short of where the asphalt's going to go. So you're going to end up with, I expect people walking into the wet grass and muddy ground possibly. So I just thought I'd point that out. So either the sidewalk needs extending, or when they put the asphalt in, they have to go a couple extra feet to pick up that blank spot there. So thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? If not, there are item number 7 is advisory committee and outside board minutes, and there's minutes there from the active transportation advisory committee. Next subcommittee meeting will be Wednesday, June 29th at 4:30, and motion to adjourn moved by Councillor Gaffney. Oh, did you have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, yes, sorry. Yes, I do mean to move that. For some reason last night during our discussions about the parade routes and stuff, it kept getting referred to, we're going to talk about it at today's meeting. And I had a hard time understanding that. So it wasn't part of our agenda. And, yeah, okay. And also to Taylor, if you could pass on to Alyssa from me my best wishes as she moves forward here, and I'm sure the rest of the committee feel the same way. It'd be too bad. It's too bad that we're losing her.
Yeah, she'll be missed here as well. Thank you.
So we do have a mover for adjournment. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice afternoon.
Take care.